Hi everyone, we're here with you today to talk about the latest changes to the battle map and the Ukrainian offensive which is about to start. So we're going through very critical days in the war between Ukraine and Russia. As the war intensifies in many regions, bad news from Russian army is coming one after another that will upset Kremlin. Moreover, the fact that these news are interpreted together with Ukrainian plans increases panic in Russia. The bad days are over for Russia, but worse days are just around the corner. The Ukrainian army has been meticulously preparing for a long time. Of course, this preparation is for the big spring offensive. The allegations we are about to discuss show that radical changes will take place on the battle map before the end of spring. Let's talk about the details of the Ukrainian army's preparations and the possible offensive we just talked about. Before we start our report, we would like to give you an important reminder. As the Pioneer team, we are working hard to bring you breaking news about the Russian-Ukrainian war, the latest changes on the front line, and of course the current situation of the armies with interactive maps. So we need your support to continue our work, and you can support us simply by clicking the Super Thanks button in the bottom right corner of the video. Thank you. So, the war between Russia and Ukraine has intensified, especially in the Bakhmut line. The two armies continue to exchange blows. The commander of the ground forces of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Syrsky, recently had a visit of the front lines in Bakhmut. After this visit, which gave great morale to the members of the army, he made statements about the latest situation in the region. In his statement, Syrsky said that the militias of the Wagner group have been considerably weakened thanks to the operations organized by the Ukrainian forces in the region, and that Russia has started to implement the Scorched earth strategy that it has been applying in Syria. The scorched earth strategy simply means area defense. So, in other words, Russia is redesigning its position on the front line as a defense position. Of course, the reason for the shift to a defensive position is that the Russian army in front, it has run out of power in Bakhmut to maintain a prolonged offensive position. Bakhmut is a front where the Wagner militia is concentrated. Recently, an image of the Wagner militia went viral on social media. You might have seen it. The chase between the Wagner militia and Ukrainian soldiers who ran out of ammunition and had to flee was watched by millions of users. This video of the Wagner militia was interpreted by many experts as a projection of a great defeat. Syrsky also commented on these developments on the front line. Speaking about these developments, he said, quote, "The defense of Bakhmut continues. The situation in the city is under our control. Very soon we will hear news from Bakhmut that will herald the victory of Ukraine." So, where will the possible Ukrainian operation start? The town of Avdiivka on the map is located south of Bakhmut. In this city, the Ukrainian army carried out a repulsion operation against Russian military activities. The areas we see in red are the areas occupied by the Russian army, but not fully dominated. These areas are the primary target of the Ukrainian army. The city of Avdiivka has a very suitable position for a forward operation to liberate the red-colored areas. Russia failed in its efforts to prevent this initiative and was forced to retreat. The Russian army had recently made an intensive deployment to the occupied city of Melitopol. But this shipment did not last long. The deployment to Melitopol was a precautionary measure taken by the Russian army against the spring offensive. Ukrainian officials have frequently mentioned the spring offensive in recent days. However, this measure was eliminated before the offensive even started. As a result of the operations of the Ukrainian army, the armored units deployed to the region were destroyed. It seems that armored units that can resist for only 4 days will cause Russia to make radical changes in its defense plans. As we can see on the map, Melitopol is very close to Crimea, Ukraine's ultimate goal. A land connection between the Dnieper River and the Sea of Azov through Melitopol will sever the land connection between Crimea and Russia. Russia, whose only connection with Crimea is the Kerch Strait Bridge, cannot rely on this connection either, because this bridge has been hit before and it will be hit again. Many military experts are making very striking statements that the key to the Crimea target is the city of Melitopol. Well, according to the latest information from the front line, the occupied territories will be attacked on two fronts, the northern and the southern fronts. In the coming days, the red marks we see on the map symbolize the current positions of Russian troops. By the way, the relatively small number of Russian troops on the northern line will further increase the effectiveness of the offensive of Ukraine from the north. In addition, a possible breakthrough in the southern city of Melitopol would be a great advantage for the Ukrainian army, both on the main offensive front and on the central front. The Ukrainian Armed Forces are basing their offensive strategy primarily on destroying the firepower of the Russian army. The Ukrainian army has been conducting operations in the run-up to the upcoming offensive, moving behind the front line, which is far away from the mainland. Trying to prevent the Russian army from receiving new reinforcements, the Ukrainian army carried out attacks against many supply lines. On the other hand, the Russian army attempted to attack on the Kupiansk-Svatov-Kreminna line, where the T-1303 highway extends to the city of Bakhmut. The superiority of the Ukrainian army in this region will help to weaken the connection between Bakhmut and the Russian troops in the north. According to Syrsky, the spokesman for the Ukrainian Eastern Group of Forces, the Russian army has gained nothing from these attempts. The most important sign that the Ukrainian army will go on the offensive in the coming days is their reconnaissance operations. Moreover, these operations are known to Russia, but the Russian army cannot prevent these operations. According to Russian sources, a large Ukrainian reconnaissance unit has increased its reconnaissance activities in Zaporizhia Oblast. There are also claims that these activities, which have even found their way into Russian war blogs, continue in many regions. The head of Ukrainian Defense Intelligence, Major General Kyrylo Budanov, made a series of statements to the world press in recent months about the upcoming spring offensive. Budanov said Russia and Ukraine will fight a decisive war this spring. This will be the biggest conflict before the end of the Russian occupation. Russia will lose this war and Ukraine will achieve a decisive victory. Military experts and retired soldiers from many different countries give their opinions on the Ukrainian army's offensive plan. What most of them agree on is that these preparations are on the right track and are going well. Experts point to the Ukrainian army's offensive, which we mentioned at the beginning of our report, as evidence of this, noting that intelligence activities and attacks on the supply line were an important step for the success of the offensive. According to the US-based War Research Institutes, the Ukrainian army has recruited 4 to 6 new brigades to active duty within the army. Again, the opinions of these institutes on the Ukrainian offensive confirm our theory of a two-front offensive, north and south. So let us know what you think. Will the spring offensive of the Ukrainian army begin? And how do you assess the attacks on the supply lines of the Russian army? Will we see radical changes on the battle map? Do you think Ukraine's offensive preparations are sufficient? We value your opinion, so we would really appreciate it if you could share your ideas with us. Thank you and stay tuned for more updates.